My name is Gene Lollis. I'm from Lake Placid, Florida. I'm the first vice president of Florida Cattlemen's Association. Thank y'all for allowing me to be here to present this quick presentation. This is kind of a blended thing because I do a lot. I gave this talk now about 5 times this year, and try to do a lot of education to ranchers in our state to kind of tell them why we need traceability. So today, this is just an update on our project. First I want to put traceability in perspective. Second, define our need for traceability in Florida along with the U.S. Then trace our steps to our demonstration project, and then our findings and our next steps. And I think we need to have a sign that, we need to define the data. I keep hearing data, so I think we need to define that and what we need to trace in that. I think it needs to be about the number. Then we'll just kind of summarize. So traceability put into perspective, as we all know, vehicles have identification numbers. There's 253 or 254 million VIN numbers. Why do we have VIN numbers? For buy parts, register vehicles. Vegetables, pork, we have 911. Why do we have 911? That's a pretty good idea. And when I call it, which I have frequently, accident prone, I don't say I'm from the U.S. It goes to my address. For speed. That's what we need it for. I think we all know as the industry we need a program. It's just sorting out the details. So I'm glad to see we have a timeline now. And so we'll roll on from there. In Florida, as you can see, we have 21.3 million people there today. Today, again, we're having 1,000 people moving in every day. We have 105 million visitors annually. We have 14 seaports and 5 international airports. You all know we had a BS ecal in last fall, August, and I always say thank God of our politics because the news media didn't pick it up. We are a cow-calf state. We export cattle, we import people, as you see. That's why I believe regionalization is very important. I threw the numbers up there. As we all know, FMD is going to cost us a lot if it hits here. But let's put it in perspective. A friend of mine called me right before I came the other day and said, foot and mouth, we got a vaccine bank, but look at the numbers. That vaccine bank can do about 14% of the cattle in Texas and about 4% of the hogs in Iowa. So regionalization is going to be very important. So to trace our projects, our immediate past president, Ken Grinder, wanted to tackle traceability. He would prefer, and in this we want to try to do an intrastate and an interstate program. And that's a lot of controversy in our state why we want to do it within state. I would argue if you look at those numbers, we're probably pretty vulnerable to some type of something coming in. So he formed a task force. He put me in charge. As I told at NCBA, I don't think the cattlemen like me because they put me in charge of traceability, and the other day they said they wanted to increase dues. Gene, take care of it. So 2 topics that producers usually don't like is dues increase and traceability. So we had a first meeting. So in that meeting, when I got there, I wanted to find if there was a need. And what we did is we brought the dairy producers north and south, because our dairy industry seemed to be split in the north and south in the state. We brought our backgrounders. We have very few backgrounders, but we do have 2 or 3. We brought order buyers together. We brought the livestock market in. We brought everybody together. Because I was ready to eat dinner. If there was no need, I wanted to tell all you government officials that we didn't want nothing to do with it. We'd worry about it when the problem came. We defined the need. We all agreed that it needed to be electronic. And then the preference is to enter commerce when the animal leaves your premise or your ranch. Because we have 2 things going on. We have traceability and we have management. If I'm a producer, and I always say this, if I want to raise 3,000 head of cracker cattle on my ranch, that's up to me. The market will define how much I get for those cracker cattle. If I'm happy with getting $200 for those cracker cattle, that's my business, that's my economics. But I choose to electronically ID all our cattle so I can use the technology to better my herd so I can produce a better calf for the system. We then said that we wanted to focus on cattle 18 months or older for interstate movement because that's the federal rule. And we began And that was that meeting. We finished it up. Everything went well. One item we left was mandatory versus voluntary. Somebody mentioned that earlier. The reason we did, because it's always controversial. So we left it. Let's just get the program started. Our second meeting is where we came up with a three-phase demonstration project, and we chose to kind of start at the livestock markets to try to find a livestock market. We have about 10 of them in Florida now. I think we lost one and we gained one, but he ain't open yet. So we wanted to get a livestock market because that's where we felt would be the most difficult challenge to overcome. So we got a livestock market on hand. Today he is fully functional and running. We need more cattle. So phase 2 would be to increase the volume of cattle tagging. That's kind of where we are, and to continue to educate. So and we always leave that mandatory discussion on the table, just on the outside. So our third meeting is we want to educate. So we have reached out to our universities. And as a matter of fact, I had a meeting yesterday to educate our extension agents. We've got about 58 counties in the state, and there's a county extension office in every county. So what we want to do is educate our extension agents. We want a unified discussion. We no longer want to say why we can't do it. We want to know what we're going to do and how we're going to accomplish it. So in that meeting, we brought Dr. Short and his team in. We brought IFAS in. We brought veterinarians in and other industry leaders. So we wanted to deliver this concise, industry-driven message. So here's kind of our pilot as it started there. If you'll see this livestock market, they run about 102,000 head through that livestock market annually. About 24,000 head of those are cattle 18 months or older. So predominantly calves that run through there. So on a cost basis, he broke down the cost for us there to implement his yard, and it was about $25,000, and that's been out of his pocket to date. So he run me some numbers just saying if he continued to tag cattle at his site, this is what if he brought in 3-day workers, it'd cost him about $75,000 more a year, about $100,000 with 4. So if you look at the bottom chart there, to tag him, it's going to cost him about $4.19. So he says that he's going to charge about $5 to $7. However, he would prefer that those cattle be tagged before he gets to his livestock market. I know he put a special cow sale on a while back with about 400 head, and he was able to manage to tag about 320. So he said he'd prefer to get it done before they go. So kind of initial findings, and this is his words, it can be done, and I just had low frequency there. And again, I don't care if it's high or low, but I think we need to choose something and get started. I'm glad everybody else is using something else, and that's great. That's why they're pilot projects, so we can see what technology. Like I told Dr. Cobb earlier, I never got a beeper if I knew this was coming. So, so tagging at home is going to make it more efficient. So our next steps, of course, is we do have another market in place that's willing to put readers and all that in. Our livestock market that's already set up, he's on a drive right now. He's going to contact about 500 producers so we can get some tags. We got about $85,000 from our cattle enhancement board, and we're going to use that to buy and distribute tags to run more cattle through his system and the other system we're going to put in place. And of course, we're always continuing to reach out. I was supposed to reach out, Mr. Wilson, to Texas and Kansas, but I failed to do that. And I apologize for that. So defining the data, I think it's very important that we make it about the 15-digit number. It's like that VIN number on the car. I don't ever really need it until I register it or I sell it, or if I need to go buy a part for it, because sometimes you know how these cars are made now. If you don't have the right VIN number, they don't give you the right parts. I think you just need to address the cattle where the animal originated, whether it's a beef or dairy animal, the sex of that animal, and at this point in time, 18 months or older, and it probably should be done with a change of ownership. So traceability, in summary, we know there's a need, and why is to protect our food supply, our industry, and our herd. Should be electronic, And to avoid the argument, I don't care if it's high or low, let whatever works the best, let technology develop. I'll challenge all the people at the back room that has the technology to build a reader that reads both of them. There's where it's at. If y'all will build a reader that will do them both, of course, it's going to increase the cost. Tag the animal before he enters commerce. Establish between tagging at birth. I have that because I always hear at birth. At our country, myself, we're 3,000 head on about 10,000 acres, and tag them at birth. I think it should be at birthplace or when they enter commerce. And my neighbor, they're 270,000 acres, 14,000 head. I don't think he's going to get out there and tag them at birth. And then, the mandatory versus voluntary, just let it set. Let's get the program going through these pilot projects. And what happens? The commerce market will dictate how tagging becomes. So we always avoid it. Let's just build the foundation. And I always like to leave with something. When I find something inspirational, I always go to the Bible, because the Bible, if you read it, it's pretty profound and it's pretty guiding. And when I started hearing the talk about high frequency, low frequency, it kind of bothered me a little bit, because I was afraid that somebody was going to say it's going to be this. And so in Mark, if you can see, if a kingdom is divided against itself, the kingdom cannot stand. Same thing with a house is divided against itself, house cannot stand. Dr. Scheer mentioned teamwork, and I think what we need to do is come together and work together as states and work what best is for the producers that produce the product that goes into the system. And that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.